Hello, everybody. Here we go for another First Impression BJJ episode. First, I would like to ask you guys a huge favor. If you can subscribe and like the channel, that will be a great help. So by that, I can keep our content up and try to motivate people to train jiu-jitsu. Today, as guests, we're going to have Greg Jennings, a 58 years old dude training jiu-jitsu for over 6 years and has been in martial arts for over 20 years. He has a black belt in Aikido and shift over to BJJ and found a love with it. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you. So how's everything, Greg?
Everything's going well. Kelvin, how are you?
Pretty good. Sounds good. So how's training over there? So right now you're at Dayton, right?
Yes, I'm in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
I train at S&G BJJ. That's for Stutzman and Gray BJJ in Dayton. And I've been there for 6 years, and I trained on the base on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base where I work for a year before that.
That's
so good. And I don't really count that year. It was not not like full up competitive BJJ.
Yeah, I get it. But so where did you start? You start prior to the gym then?
Yeah. So you and I, as we chatted a little bit behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I have some background. And once my kids got out of the house, I was an empty nester and didn't have enough to do. And so I looked around and I saw a flyer for Gracie Defensive Systems or whatever it is. And so it's kind of like the self-defense for women thing, kind of. But it was everybody. Yes,
they have a pretty good program, right? Like a great program.
Yeah, it was okay. I think that for us, the instruction, just to be frank, was a little light. Like they went out for a quick seminar and then came back and they were teaching. And it was better than nothing. And you got on the mat,
okay.
And you got some reps. Never against like full out resistance.
No, I understand. Yes, yeah.
But you learn some terminology, which was nice. Like I wasn't totally lost. I knew what mount and
like you said, we had a little bit of chat of like before prior this, and you have like 14 years of Aikido, right? So you had a lot of movements in, right? Like you knew whatever was going on. Wasn't something like new to you.
No, not the space, the distance was very different. At Aikido, you're connecting through the arms or lesser through the legs, perhaps. But of course, in BJJ, it's very tight.
Exactly.
And so that was a little different. But man, nobody better leave their wrist laying out there.
I know. But how did you feel being like coming from a 14 years like doing Aikido and trying jiu-jitsu at first? How was like that feeling?
Well, like I said, so some martial principles of distance and angles and balance, those things were already there. I had to add to them a little bit, but the baseline was there. But what I had to get used to was the extremely close space. I'm just naturally an introvert. And I have a big personal space, I don't like people close to me or anything. And so that took some time to get used to.
That's I would say a challenge then, right? Like,
well, yeah, it was, it was something personal that I had to work through that other people that maybe come from wrestling or judo more recently didn't have to work through, but I did. And, and now, top pressure is one of my strengths,
Amazing.
And so I love to, to put the spurs to people,
Give them some hard time then.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So how old were you when you started, Greg?
So I'm 52 3. So I'm 58 now. So yeah, I would have been 52.
52. Okay, so you pretty much started jiu-jitsu at 52. You had like 14 years doing Aikido, this is like a big game changer, right? Like, because people, I would say, when they are looking to do something different as like a 50 years old, and they decide to try jiu-jitsu out of nowhere without any martial art like backgrounds or anything, it's kind of, oh, you see people kind of scared. I would say, I'm sure you weren't scared, right? Like, to do it.
Well, in some sense, I had both some background, and I had a little bit with the stuff we did on base. I had a little bit of a gentler intro, but I've got to tell you, man, going in with a real competitive gym, and we're a competition gym, man, with people that, particularly young men, man. Some of those guys don't think they got to go to work tomorrow.
I
You
know, I
know,
know, I know, I know.
you
How
know,
is it? Yeah.
and plus the basic spazzy white belt thing on top of it. So I was a little intimidated, but I just learned to deal with it. You just had to. So you as an older person, you do have to learn, that maybe you don't have to take every round. There's
Great point.
say 5 rounds or 6 rounds at the end of class. You don't have to do every roll. If you get really exhausted, you do start to make mental mistakes. Now, I'm not saying don't push yourself to grow.
No,
But I'm
exactly. No,
saying
this is different. Exactly. Yes, that
give
makes a
yourself,
lot of sense.
give yourself a little space. And that gets into my kind of a second point, is that you need to train consistently, right? So you need to be there. And if you get hurt, as an older person, it takes you longer to heal.
Recover, right?
You get hurt easier, and you take longer to recover. And for older people to find whatever that pace is that lets them train consistently. I was a notorious overtrainer. I was hitting 12, 13 classes a week.
Wow. Wow.
And I on top of getting hurt once or twice, which we all do, right?
Exactly.
We all
It
get injured.
happens, right? It happens. We
Yeah,
can talk about it. We can talk about it too more. Yeah.
yeah, you just got to go through that stuff. But on top of that, I got run down to the point that I really had health issues. And
Like,
so
energy wise, you mean like no energy and then just drained out?
well, yeah, and to the point that I could not sleep, and
Wow.
I started having some other symptoms, and I went to the doctor, and he did blood tests, and my testosterone was super
Low.
low. Would have been low for an 80-year-old man.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and what
So this, what belt were you? Like, how many years in jiu-jitsu were you when this
so
happened?
I was a blue belt at that time. I advanced to
Going
blue.
hard all the time.
Yeah, you know how it is. So I got to be the blue belt fairly quickly. At our gym, 2 years is quick.
I get it. I get it.
We got a kind of a tough gym, but that's what it is. I went to the doctor, and he said, Greg, you got to get more rest. You got to get more rest. And so I did. I toned things back, and all of my blood count things came right back up just from rest.
Just from rest.
And just from rest. And so I'm not on TRT or anything like that. Just rest, and good nutrition, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes things a lot better once you start a pretty good diet, right? Like, and start to get like nutrition well and rest. And of course, everybody and every athlete should be doing this, right? Like, you can, like you said, big overtraining. This can happen with everybody. Once you start, this is just like you addicted to it. You keep going. You really like it. Like, I feel the same thing, because I never went like so bad like that from overtraining, but I've been there, getting hurt, man, on my knees, my hips, and just because I'm
Yep.
training so much, and this can happen with anybody. And coming from you, like, as a blue belt, 53 or 54 years old, man, this is like very surprising and nice to see like the way that you deal with it and kept going, because many would stop as a blue belt, because many people stop at the blue belt and would think that this is giving them like a really hard health issues, just where you just need to kind of rest, and get a
Yeah, yeah,
nutrition
yeah, yeah.
and
Well,
feel better.
I saw you'd recently been promoted to black belt. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Um,
much. I appreciate it.
that you well know, man, that this is a marathon,
Yes,
right? And so I had my former art to fall back on, right? That to know that it was a marathon, right? So in Aikido, about 7 years to black belt, generally 7, and I was a second degree, so like a
amazing.
several
Congratulations.
years after that. So
It
the
is still.
whatever, you could hang, So
Exactly.
uh so I did have that to fall back on, to understand that it's just, it's a long-term thing and you got to be there. And who was it that said that it's not the best, it's the last.
It's the last, exactly, exactly.
Not the best, it's the
You, you,
last.
you- you're looking, you're looking in longevity.
Yes, you got to, and that's that thing, you train consistently, uh, and you have to have some moderation, and
Exactly.
and it may be that, like, maybe some classes at your school are appropriate for you, and maybe some aren't. Like we used to have, before the coronavirus, we had some competition classes. And dude, those things were killer classes.
Exactly.
And by the time we got down to actually training techniques from the warm ups, which were really conditioning, right? Man, I was exhausted. It was and I was unable to really get a lot out of it.
But
And I leave that to the kids, man.
but did you do, like, you went to class on purpose, right? Like, let me check it out. How was it? Or you used to go from it? Like, I want to do this class.
Yeah, so I'd go to that class and I'd check all the classes out, man. I'd just find the one that works for me.
Okay.
And right now, I go to five, 6 classes a week, and I go in the mornings. So I'm there at 6:30 every morning, and it runs 6:30 to 7:30, and I stay late and hang out and do some extra, and that's kind of to get a little more focused time with certain people, that can help me out a
Yeah,
little
I
bit,
get it.
or I'm helping some young men train for competition right now. I'm a strategic guy, and I help them, like,
Good. That's
focus on
good.
what they, instead of having 5,000 separate things, let's focus on a few things that you do well, and let's aim everything at those things.
Awesome. That's yeah, that's we all have I believe that it's not only about the athlete, right? Like, we are different. Somebody will be meant to be athlete, someone will be meant like just to be a training partner, a good training partner, somebody that can give you like good advices, right? Like, oh, instead of, like you just said, I can help my training partners. I try to be as strategic like as I can, and everybody has like a good thing to pass, and that's what I like from jiu-jitsu, because if you keep training and you put the years and training on it, doesn't matter how good you are, you always gonna have something that works that you can teach and pass on the knowledge, right? Because that's how it works. And I believe
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
knowledge should be passed all the time, even though some people really don't care. Sometimes they don't see you as competitor or a really good person. They under this happens a lot, trust me. They underestimate you, baby, because you're not a competitor or something. And I have seen that, and I leave that too, because I used to compete a lot more, and people kind of look you different once you kind of stop, or you're not competing a lot. But
Yeah.
you know
So
what I mean, right?
so I had in addition to our 2 main instructors there at S&G, uh, Sean and Professor Sean Graham's, John Stutzman, we have visitors that come through with the Air Force, right? People get stationed here and then they go on. And one of those fellows was named Chris Easter. And he was from a different line entirely, and had some different ideas. And he just and he was a chief master sergeant in the Air Force, which is the highest enlisted rank. So and at that rank, you're a guide, a leader of people, of younger people generally. And so he advised me just very bluntly, said, Greg, your future in this is not as a competitor. You're going to be past that. You're already in the highest master classification, and you're getting old for that. He said, so your future in this is to be able to teach, right? And so I was like, oh well, I submit to your wisdom, and ran with it. So I try to do that, and but we all have our moments, right?
No, exactly. It's gonna come. If it's not happening right now, it will come, because I believe on that. I had this advice, like somebody really special told me that, like when I was blue belt, and I remember like the word he said to me. It was my first Brazilian instructor. Right now he's teaching in Saudi Arabia. We still have like a lot of contact, and he told me, I was a blue belt. He said, you don't need to be the best competitor to teach. You don't need to be the best in the room. You don't need to be the best guy who does technique or who does anything. You just need to be able to pass it, to be able to be clear enough and teach people, because jiu-jitsu has so much to offer. It's not only about competing, being the best, getting medals. Teaching is one of the best part. I love it. That's why I chose, to get my black belt and open my own gym. I have my partner. He's a purple belt, and the guy is like in love with jiu-jitsu too. I would say in love because I love it. There is no other word to me. Honest,
Oh, I understand completely. In a former life, I was a very good skeet shooter. If you know what this shooting clay targets.
Okay.
Where you shoot the shotgun. I was very good out, and was high ranked. And when I had to quit, I burned inside. I burned, and then during the times that I was injured from BJJ, I felt that same thing. I burned to get back on the mat, and to be to be with my brothers on the mat, but also to just the activity. There's just something about it. And I hope I hope I have many years left. We'll see. So
definitely will happen for sure, man.
They'll change.
You're young, trust.
Yeah, they'll change my nickname to Cyborg. I have so many metal parts.
Well, I'm going on the same way too. My hips are completely done. Soon I'll have to have like a hip replacement.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm only 29, man. Well, I'm gonna be 30 next week.
Oh wow. Happy birthday. Hip replacement. Happy birthday.
There you go. Yeah,
geez.
Gotta live with that, and like I said, try my best to be a good teacher, pass the knowledge,
Right.
And go for it, and keep the gym up, keep passing the knowledge. That's the whole idea. And another question that I've been thinking is, like, we're talking about the classes, right? Like, what's a good class or not? And you mentioned that you're going to the early morning classes. And I like those classes because, okay, as internal BJJ, where I used to train a lot. So my classes would be afternoons and nights, where major of the people would be, right? Like, I would say the gym is pretty much packed at night. I would say every single gym, right? At night is like when more people have time to go. In the morning, we had a pretty good group. And I used to see some older guys there because I can't really say why, but there was the time that we had like more people not training really competitive, but more casually or for fun, being there and feeling great. Like you said, I like to stay a little bit at the gym to talk and keep talking technique and maybe training, do something else. And that's exactly what happens. And I would say this is like a really good class to try it as, if you're starting late in life, because that's the whole point of first impression, to show different experience, so you can actually listen to it and say, okay, you know what, instead of going to the harder classes, I'm gonna start by this, so then I can stick around more, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not That's an excellent observation that perhaps the morning class has some thing to do with the demographics of older people that or people that are there, that it's a better class for older people like me. Gosh, I never thought about that. I just thought of it as finding the class for me. It was convenient. It was convenient, and when I went there, it was just the tone, the pace was just right. I still do go to some other classes, but that's my my primary thing. But yeah, now that you mention it, there are more people that are 30 and older there, and fewer people that are in their 20s. Yeah, I think they were probably hungover from last night.
That's why they can make the morning classes.
Yeah.
And so what's the mindset? Like, what's your mindset? What should be the mindset of a people starting like late in life? Tell me about yours. Tell me about yours. Like, what do you have in mindset, like, for training?
Well, it's really what I think everybody should be. It is to listen to the instructor, to do what they tell you to do, to not freelance, not to be off on some weird path, not to get off to talking about something else, and to try to do every movement perfectly. And if, as you can't, if there's 5 steps in the technique, you're not going to do all 5 perfectly. You have to focus on one.
Exactly.
Yeah, on subsets, right? It may be years before you do all 5 of them perfectly, but to do every one perfectly. And we have a fellow comes and does seminars at our gym every so often. Professor Dustin Dennis, I think is the way he's pronounced his name. We call him Professor Clean. He's had where he lost all his hair, all of his hair.
He lost
completely. So he has doesn't have hair on his body anyway, hair, eyebrows, anything. And so but he trained in Brazil for many years.
Okay.
And he was a high level wrestler before that. And he just an intensity that he brings to training that I picked up, and it's not saying doing the technique hard, but to focus when you're doing it and to do it perfectly. And I would tell older people that that's something they can certainly do, right? Because as you get older, you have a different perspective. You have a longer term perspective in life, and you can typically focus a little bit better. And I would tell them to focus on doing the movement efficiently. Of course, you're a black belt. You know better than I. There's that one place in the technique that it's most efficient, right? If you're doing pendulum sweep, right? There's that 2 or 3 things that make it work perfectly. Is to find those things and try to do them that way every time.
These are details that you should be looking for, right? Instead of trying, like you said, instead of trying to make all the 5 movements perfect, try to go small steps, like 2 movements perfect, and then you keep adding to it to make it happen, right?
Absolutely. And it's like it may be years before you get every part of something complicated.
Exactly. There'll be techniques that it's going to be hard at some point, and then those techniques will become easier in the future because you actually can put things together.
Yeah. So I talk about it being like a puzzle, a picture puzzle that you maybe get only the rim first, and then you get some pieces, and then as you get more pieces and you can see the picture, then it becomes easier to fill in the rest. So yeah, it's just you got to hang in there, and you've got to see the whole picture, but you can't just slop your way through it. Is what I'm getting. You're gonna have to focus on getting it right. At least one part of it, get it right.
It's actually a regular class, right? Like anything. you dare to learn, you should focus on whatever the teacher is, teaching, and then you put on practice. If you can do it at home, would be great. That means you have some mat space, you can bring some friends and keep studying on the lab. If not, the time that you have at the gym, you have to make it work. You have to pay attention, make it work. The training partner, you got to have a good training partner that can help you at it. If you get a friendship with a higher belt, that's great, because they can actually explain you a little bit better in a private time, or when you guys training together, because that makes a lot of difference, right? The training partner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You got to, and yes, and I should have made that point. You have to have particularly as an older person, you have to have the right training partner. Exactly. You cannot train with some guy that makes it's all about strength, that he is really resistive all the time. You have to have a good partner. And you try to find equally the right people to roll with, the people that can help you along.
Exactly.
Versus the people that are just going to spaz and
trying to exactly, like, I wouldn't say
do it.
Exactly, muscle you up. I wouldn't say that those people, they are intentional, like meaning to kind of come and smash you or do something like that. Maybe it's their own problem to how to solve it. They don't know how to solve it, that spasm, that power that they can put out yet. And that they're gonna be like that for years until they figure out how to control that and how to be a better training partner. This might take couple months, they might take a year, 2 years, 3 years, and somebody will never be like a easy going and easy training partner, because that's the way they are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They when things get going perhaps a little fast, maybe, or whatever, that they lose their mind or whatever and fall into a very competitive mindset versus a training flowing mindset. Yeah,
exactly. That's true. That's man, Greg, we've been having a great conversation. I would like to make a final question. Okay. The thing is, we talk about mindset, classes, training partners, and everything, but what do you be your best advice for a beginner in a late age that really wants to try something new and they chose BJJ to go with?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is to do it. Don't think that you're going to I'm going to spend 6 months getting into shape. Just go get a quick clearance from a doctor that you're healthy enough to do some activity, and go do it. Get out there and do it. Find the right school. Go to several schools. In that school, find the right class. In that class, find the right training partners. Train moderately and consistently, right? Just and have fun. Just do it and have fun, and don't compare yourself to other people.
Amazing.
Right. Don't compare yourself to other people. You're 50 something years old. There's going to be some guy there that's 20 years old and has been wrestling for 17 years. Exactly. You should not compare yourself to him. So
that's an amazing point and great advice. Greg, I appreciate so much your time. We've been talking over a week or 2 weeks, something like that, and finally we made it happen. I'm really happy for that. And like I said, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you, man. Come down and train with us.
It will happen. I hope as soon COVID and those restrictions come down, I'll do my best to come by one time, and maybe you can visit Ontario too and come by a Toronto BJJ or a Cambridge BJJ. And
man, I'll be by there. You bet on it.
For sure. Amazing. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great night, man.
All right. Thank you, man. See you.